The atmosphere inside the Santiago Bernabéu has turned electric, and not in a celebratory way. Real Madrid, a club built on dominance, invincibility, and unforgiving expectations, now finds itself at the edge of a precipice after a shocking 2-0 defeat to Celta Vigo. What should have been a routine home match instead became a pressure cooker that exposed cracks in leadership, discipline, and tactical identity. Before we dive into the full breakdown of the drama, the expulsions, the internal panic, and the rising threat to Xabi Alonso's job, don't forget to like this video, comment your opinion, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps high-quality football analysis alive, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Real Madrid's latest stumble has triggered a level of scrutiny that even Xabi Alonso, familiar with the demands of the club, could never fully anticipate. With only 2 wins in 7 matches, the team's momentum has evaporated, and the pressure from the boardroom has intensified dramatically. Losing at home is already unacceptable, but losing while collapsing emotionally and structurally on the field is a full-blown crisis. The match devolved into chaos, marked by 3 red cards that symbolized the current instability. Álvaro Carreras was the first to be sent off after repeated defensive lapses pushed him into decisions born of frustration. Moments later, Fran Garcia followed, ejected in stoppage time after telling the referee he was terrible, a moment that left even Alonso visibly exasperated on the touchline. Cameras caught the coach muttering whether Garcia was joking, an expression of disbelief that quickly went viral. But the most explosive dismissal came from someone who didn't even step onto the field. Endrick, still struggling to find space under Alonso and having accumulated only 11 minutes of playing time this season, was expelled from the bench after protesting heatedly with the 4th official. The incident inflamed online debate, with Spanish fans mocking the Brazilian for having as many red cards as matches played, and a red every 11 minutes. For a player already facing skepticism, the episode adds fuel to discussions about his future, or lack of one, at the club. Xabi Alonso's situation is no less fragile. Real Madrid currently sits second in La Liga, 4 points behind Barcelona after 15 rounds. But the standings do not reflect the deteriorating internal environment. According to club insiders, voices from within the boardroom are beginning to question whether Alonso still has the authority to stabilize the squad. The upcoming clash against Manchester City in the Champions League, a match with massive consequences, has been described as make or break for the coach. European media outlets report that failure to defeat City could accelerate conversations about his dismissal. The club's leadership understands that an early Champions League collapse, combined with the current domestic instability, could provoke long-term damage to the season. With tensions rising and the locker room visibly shaken, the margin for error has disappeared. Meanwhile, Endrick's situation is nearing a breaking point. Sources suggest that the January transfer window may become his exit route, with Lyon emerging as a top candidate for a loan deal. Out of favor, low on minutes, and criticized publicly, the young forward is eager to revive his form and secure a place in Brazil's national team ahead of the 2026 World Cup. As the pressure mounts, Real Madrid finds itself facing a pivotal moment. The defeat to Celta wasn't just a bad day, it was a warning sign. And on Wednesday against Manchester City, the club will discover whether this crisis is temporary, or the beginning of something much deeper. Inside Valdebebas, the atmosphere has turned from tense to undeniably alarming. What once seemed like a temporary dip in performance has slowly evolved into one of the most precarious moments of Xabi Alonso's tenure. The defeat to Celta Vigo was not simply another loss, it was a structural warning, exposing a team suffering from emotional instability, tactical uncertainty, and a growing sense that leadership is slipping. The internal reaction to the defeat was immediate. Reports from Spanish outlets describe closed-door conversations in which senior board members questioned whether Alonso still possesses the authority necessary to steer Real Madrid through the remainder of the season. While Florentino Perez has not issued public criticism, the privately expressed frustration is unmistakable. For a club that historically reacts quickly to signs of systemic fragility, the timing could not be worse. The Champions League clash against Manchester City is just days away. Inside the locker room, players are experiencing the weight of the crisis. Veterans, typically calm under pressure, were visibly shaken after the Celta loss, not only because of the result but because of how the team unraveled. The 3 red cards became the symbolic center of discussion, a lack of emotional control that even experienced players rarely display in a high-stakes environment like Real Madrid. Analysts across Europe pointed out that Madrid's defensive structure collapsed mentally before collapsing tactically, something that raises serious alarms ahead of facing Guardiola's City. One of the central figures of this turbulent moment is Endrick. His expulsion from the bench was more than a disciplinary issue. It was a reflection of the frustration he has endured throughout the season. With only 11 minutes played under Alonso, the young Brazilian has become a lightning rod for criticism. Spanish fans and European commentators reacted harshly, calling the scenario deplorable and questioning his mentality. Yet, privately, members of the coaching staff acknowledge that the situation is far from simple. Endrick has struggled for confidence since returning from injury and has not received the opportunities he expected after his promising first year under Ancelotti. Now the club faces a decision. Endrick's camp believes that a January loan is the best path to restoring his rhythm and protecting his long-term development. Lyon has already positioned itself as a prime destination, offering regular minutes and a stable environment. Inside Madrid, some directors agree, recognizing that the current situation risks damaging both the player's value and his trajectory. But others argue that letting him leave mid-season would weaken the squad's attacking depth at a moment when instability is at its peak. Meanwhile, the pressure surrounding Xabi Alonso has escalated dramatically. The Champions League match against Manchester City is not just important, it may define his future. A poor result could accelerate discussions about a potential replacement, while a victory could temporarily calm the storm. For a club with Madrid's history, temporary is often the key word. Stability lasts only as long as the next result. European media outlets have stressed that Real Madrid's recent run, 2 wins in 7 matches, is incompatible with the project promised at the beginning of the season. Alonso's tactical approach is now under intense scrutiny, with critics arguing that the team lacks identity, verticality, and the psychological resilience necessary to compete at the highest level. Comparisons to previous eras, especially under Ancelotti and Zidane, have been relentless. This moment represents a crossroads. Win against Manchester City, and Alonso regains time, credibility, and breathing room. Lose, and the club faces a scenario in which leadership must decide whether to preserve the long-term project or act decisively before the spiral worsens. Real Madrid has lived through crises before, but rarely with so many variables collapsing at the same time. A struggling young star, a coach under fire, a squad showing emotional volatility, and a Champions League elimination threat hovering over the season. One thing is clear. Whatever happens next will shape the direction of the club for months, if not years, to come.